Welcome to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram's Immigration News Show. Today we ask, will USCIS recheck your approval? We would like to thank attorney Chris M. Ingram and staff at the law offices of Chris M. Ingram for their hard work in preparing the research for this show, which draws on a wide variety of news sources from both sides of the aisle, providing a balanced view. Attorney Ingram is also a vocal advocate for the rights and protection of immigration applicants, although our coverage is designed to be nonpartisan. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our channel. We are also on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Reddit, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. You can also visit our website on www.breakthroughUSA.com. We'd love to see you there.
Please note that this presentation should not be intended as legal advice for your specific situation. If you, a friend, or a family member would like a free consultation, you can visit our website at www.breakthroughUSA.com and schedule an appointment. We'd love to hear from you and help you if we can. We'd also like to point out that this presentation was created using AI hosts. Okay, let's dive in.
I want to start today by speaking directly to a specific slice of our audience. If you're tuning in and you're a STEM graduate, maybe an engineer, a data scientist, a researcher, you live your life by a certain code.
Literally and figuratively, yeah.
Exactly. You deal in precision. In your world, A leads to B. If the math is right, the bridge holds. If the code compiles, the program runs.
It's a world that's governed by logic and, predictable outcomes.
Right. But the mission of today's deep dive is to explore what happens when that clean, logical world collides head-on with a system that often feels, well, unpredictable.
The U.S. immigration system.
Yes. We are looking at 4 specific angles that really define what it means to build a technical career across borders right now. And I have to say, looking at the legal research from attorney Chris Ingram's team, the picture it's complex.
It really is a study in contrasts. On one hand, you have this incredible, almost desperate market demand for high-level skills. The economy is screaming for talent. But on the other hand, our researchers have outlined a regulatory environment that is putting up some new and, frankly, some very sophisticated hurdles.
So how do we navigate this? I don't want to just rattle off a list of new rules and, scare people. We need to make sense of it.
We need a strategy map.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we're structuring this is very intentional. We're going to start with the personal human story that sort of redefines what friction actually means for an immigrant.
Okay.
Then we move to the regulatory. We need to break down some very specific policy holds and fee changes that Chris and his team have identified. And then finally, we'll zoom out to the economic view.
The macro view.
The macro view of the labor market.
I think that macro view is going to be vital because it answers the why. Why is this happening? But let's start with the who. We often talk about immigration as just paperwork, forms, stamps, priority dates. But I want to reframe the immigrant experience for our listeners today as momentum.
Momentum pushing against friction. That's really the core dynamic, isn't it?
It is. And the research highlights a perfect example of this in the story of Louis Van Aan. Now, even if you don't know his name, you absolutely know his work.
Oh, absolutely. If you've ever proven you aren't a robot by clicking on pictures of traffic lights, or if you've ever learned a few words of French on your phone, you've interacted with his mind.
He's the computer scientist from Guatemala behind CapPCA, RecapTCA, and of course, the massive platform Duolingo. Now, usually when we hear a story like this, tech genius comes to America, makes billions, the narrative is usually about inevitability.
Right, the merit myth. We think, well, of course he succeeded, he's a genius. We look at the outcome and just assume the path was smooth because the talent was so undeniable.
But the research attorney Ingram's team pulled together on Van Aan shows something different. It highlights that merit often starts with some profound sacrifice.
Deeply profound. What jumped out at me in the notes was his background. He wasn't just a brain in a jar. He was a person grounded in a very specific family context.
In an interview, our researchers cited, Van Aan credited his ambition entirely to the strong woman who raised him. He spoke about his mother specifically.
Yeah, how she gave him everything, effectively stretching her own financial and emotional resources just to create a foundation for him. That's the first layer of friction right there, the resource gap.
But then there's the logistical friction, and this is the part that I think will resonate viscerally with anyone navigating the visa system today. The team noted a specific hurdle he had with his English testing.
The TOEFL, the standard test for English proficiency if you want to study here. You can't get into a university without it.
And when he applied?
There were literally no seats available in the entire country of Guatemala.
Just pause on that for a second. I want you to really picture this. You have the grades, you have the drive, you have acceptance letters waiting, but you physically cannot take the prerequisite test in your own nation.
It's a bureaucratic wall. It's not a test of intelligence. It's a test of logistics. And he didn't just wait for a seat to open up next year. He traveled to another country just to take a standardized test.
Think about the cost of that. The flights, the accommodation, the stress of navigating a foreign city just to sit in a room for a few hours.
It's a massive barrier to entry, and I think that connects so strongly to you if you're listening right now. Maybe you aren't flying to another country for a TOEFL today, but you are paying thousands in premium processing fees.
Or flying back home for a visa stamping appointment that might just get canceled. It's the same kind of friction.
Is the tax on ambition. But despite all that, he's quoted as saying, "It was the best decision I've ever made, coming to the United States."
And here's where I want to challenge the narrative a bit. He didn't just survive that friction. He seemingly used it.
He solved it. I mean, look at Duolingo. What is it, essentially? It's a scalable system designed to democratize access to education. He saw that gap, the same one he faced with the TOEFL, not just as a sad reality, but as a technical engineering challenge.
So the obstacle became the product roadmap.
Exactly. And this is the takeaway for the STEM pros listening. The bureaucracy you're dealing with right now, the inefficiencies, those are data points. They're teaching you where the systems are broken.
And as Von Ahn showed, fixing broken systems is a very good business model.
It's a great reframing. It takes the power back. Attorney Ingram has a great line about this. Visa status is not identity. It's about building evidence of impact and trust.
And you need to hold on to that distinction tight.
No.
Because the system is about to test that resilience.
That brings us to our second segment. We need to pivot from the inspirational to the regulatory. And honestly, this is the hard news part of our deep dive today.
We're seeing a major policy update that introduces a whole new layer of uncertainty.
We're talking about processing holds.
Sure.
This is connected to Presidential Proclamations 10949 and 19998.
Okay, let's unpack that term processing hold. To me, that sounds like a delay. Is it just a backlog?
No, and it's so important to distinguish the two. A backlog is passive. It means we're too busy to get to your file. A hold is active. It's intentional.
So what does that mean?
According to the research from our legal team, effective January 1st, 2026, USCIS has expanded guidance to pause final adjudication for nationals of countries designated as high risk.
Final adjudication. Let's define that. What does that look like in practice for someone?
Okay, think of it as the finish line of a marathon. You submit your application, it goes through intake, background checks, and officer's review. Everything looks good. But instead of stamping approved and mailing the card,
You just stuck?
they pause.
Yeah.
The case just sits in a suspended state right before the final decision.
That sounds agonizing. It's almost worse than a denial because you can't appeal a pause, can you? You're just waiting.
You are in limbo.
And
We need to be clear about the scope here. This isn't for some obscure, rare visa. This is hitting the daily filings for STEM professionals.
which forms are we talking about specifically?
Form I-765, that's your OPT, and STEM OPT. Form I-129, that's H-1B and O-1 petitions. Form I-539 for changing status, and even the I-140 for green cards. If you're in the STEM pipeline, you're almost certainly touching one of these forms.
And who is on this list of high-risk countries?
Our researchers found a list of 39 designated countries. It's broad. It includes nations like Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, Nigeria, Haiti, and Venezuela.
Now, here is the part of the legal research that really shocked me. This gets to the heart of our question today. Usually when a rule changes, it's perspective, from this day forward. But that's not what's happening here, is it?
No, this is retroactive in a way that is causing a lot of anxiety. USCIS is conducting a re-review of approved benefits.
A re-review. Wait, so will USCIS recheck your approval?
That's what the guidance implies. They are looking at requests submitted on or after January 20, 2021 for impacted nationals.
Let's be very clear. If I'm from one of these countries and I got my H-1B approved back in 2023 and I'm working right now, they can go back and recheck that approval.
That is the implication of the guidance our legal team found. They're reviewing past adjudications to ensure they align with these new security protocols. And there's another layer of nuance.
Of course there is.
This applies based on your connection to the country, like birth or citizenship. So even if you've acquired a new nationality, if you were born in a designated country, you could be subject to this review.
I want to ask about jurisdiction. Is this happening at the embassies abroad?
That's a crucial distinction. This is a USCIS policy. It's domestic. It's happening inside the United States.
They said my EB1 needed more categories. I can't even dock. What am I gonna do?
I need to find the right lawyer that can navigate me through this crisis. I need my EB1 so my new life can begin. These lawyers are amazing. They are walking me through every questions, making sure I don't miss a thing. Thanks to the law offices of Chris M. Ingram, I'm cleared to land. But my career is gonna take off.
Houston. He got his visa.
Need help with your visa? Book your free consultation now at www.breakthroughusa.com and let us take care of you.
This is unique because it affects people who are already here applying for benefits from within the U.S.
So practically speaking, if I'm listening to this and I'm from Nigeria or Venezuela, what does this hold mean for my daily life?
It means cascading delays. If your H-1B extension is held, you might fall out of status. If your OPT card is held, you can't start your job. It affects your ability to renew a driver's license. It makes international travel incredibly risky.
It turns a standard renewal into a strategic bottleneck. Which brings us back to that advice from Attorney Ingram. Don't let the pause rewrite your self-worth.
Exactly. You document everything. You keep copies of every receipt. You talk to your employer early about potential delays, and you just have to buffer your life for things taking longer.
Speaking of timing and buffers, that is the perfect segue to our third segment. If the processing holds are the variable, this next part is the constant. We have to talk about the calendar.
Yes, if you live by a calendar, late February and early March 2026 are red letter dates.
Okay, we have operational changes hitting. Let's start with the big one for the industry. The H-1B selection method. What is changing?
Effective February 27, 2026, we're seeing a shift to a weighted selection process for H-1B registrations.
Weighted selection. That sounds technical. Is it still a lottery or not?
It's still a selection process, but the Department of Homeland Security has stated the process will generally favor allocating H-1B numbers to higher skilled and higher paid beneficiaries.
Higher paid. That's the key phrase. So salary is no longer just about meeting the prevailing wage. It's now a selection factor.
That's the stated goal. They want to prioritize the best and brightest, and they're using compensation as the proxy for that value.
But hold on. This creates a massive disparity in the STEM world. A software engineer at a huge tech company in Silicon Valley might make 200 grand at a school.
Right, but a postdoc researcher working on renewable energy at a university might make $65,000.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's the strategic friction. The merit definition is skewing toward high-profit corporate roles. If you're looking at a nonprofit or an early-stage startup that offers equity instead of a high-cash salary,
You are suddenly at a disadvantage in the selection process.
so employers need to be compensation sensitive way before they even file.
Much earlier. You can't just offer the job and hope for the best. The salary level is now a variable in whether you even get the chance to file. It changes the hiring conversation completely.
That's a huge strategic pivot. Now, quickly, let's look at change number 2, premium processing fees.
This one hits the budget. Effective March 1, 2026, premium processing fees are increasing. Any request postmarked on or after that date needs the new fee amount.
Now, a cynic might say it's just inflation, fees always go up. But Chris's team seems to think this matters more than just the money. Why?
Because in this environment with the holds, the re-reviews, the uncertainty we just talked about, premium processing isn't a luxury anymore. It's a risk management tool.
It's basically an insurance policy on your time.
Exactly. It buys you an answer. It might not be a yes, but it's a decision, usually within 15 to 45 business days. If you're facing an expiring OPT deadline, buying that certainty is often worth the extra cost just to know where you stand.
So the strategy is beat the March 1st hike if you can, but budget for it regardless because you might need that speed.
Correct. As our legal team puts it, good strategy is calm strategy. Knowing these dates allows you to stay calm.
Let's zoom out for our final segment. We've talked about personal struggle, regulatory blocks, and fee hikes. It feels heavy. It really begs the question, why are we even doing this? Why does the U.S. economy bother with this complexity?
Because it has to. The macro view tells a very clear story. The research team pulled data showing that 19% of all STEM workers in the U.S. are foreign-born.
Nearly 1 in 5. That's incredible.
It is. And in certain fields like computer science and electrical engineering, that number is significantly higher. These individuals are driving productivity, research, and technical capacity. This isn't a nice-to-have diversity metric.
It's the engine of American innovation.
That's right.
But there's a massive disconnect in the current market. We hear about labor shortages, but then we also hear about layoffs. It feels contradictory.
It's a paradox. On one side, look at the Semiconductor Industry Association. They project the U.S. workforce needs to grow by 115,000 jobs by 2030 to meet the needs of the chip sector.
And chips are national security. We need them.
We do.
Yeah.
But they estimate that 58% of those new jobs, roughly 67,000 of them, risk going unfilled at current graduation rates. The domestic pipeline just isn't producing enough people.
So logically, the door should be wide open for immigrants, but then we look at the tech sector headlines.
And that's the volatility. Our team found reports of over 154,000 tech job cuts in 2025.
So semiconductors are desperate for people, but big software is firing people.
Exactly. The industry is pivoting. They're shifting heavily toward AI implementation and correcting for the overhiring that happened during the pandemic boom.
And for you, the listener, the immigrant professional, this volatility takes a massive human toll.
It does. If a U.S. citizen gets laid off, it's a financial crisis. If an H-1B holder gets laid off, it's a status crisis. You have a 60-day grace period to find a new role, file a new petition, and get it approved.
And if you combine that 60-day ticking clock with the processing holds and weighted selection we just discussed,
It becomes a perfect storm. High churn in the industry, combined with rigid immigration rules, equals a very high personal cost.
this brings up a really important point about the economy itself. Employers crave one thing above all else.
Predictability. It's an economic necessity. When the rules are clear, employers recruit with confidence. They know they can hire the talent they need.
But when policy is unstable, like with these retroactive reviews or sudden changes, employers get cautious.
They might hesitate to hire someone who needs sponsorship, not because they don't want the talent, but because they're afraid of the process itself. And that hurts everyone. It hurts the company, the applicant, and it slows the economy.
Attorney Ingram really nails it. Immigrant innovation isn't an abstract idea. It's real work done by real people. When you disrupt that work with unpredictability, the whole machine just slows down.
So what's the takeaway here? We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. We started with Louis van Aan. He showed us that friction is inevitable, but momentum is possible. He turned his obstacles into a global solution.
And then we looked at the USCIS holds and H-1B changes. The takeaway there is you have to plan like a project manager. You can't be passive. You have to know the dates, understand the risks, and budget for stability.
And finally, the economic data proves that this talent is essential. Despite all the hurdles, the U.S. economy literally cannot function at its peak without the contribution of foreign-born STEM professionals.
It really highlights that while the system is tough, the value you bring is undeniable.
That's the final thought I want to leave with you. If you are a STEM immigrant, your resilience is already proof of your strength. You have navigated so much just to get here. Stay informed, stay prepared, and don't let the noise of policy changes drown out the value of your work. Thank you so much for being with us today. We hope you gained a lot from this discussion. Please leave us a comment if you can. Additionally, you can support our channel by sharing it with your friends and family, helping us build this community together. Also follow us on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram, where we're growing rapidly thanks to our social media team. We would also like to thank attorney Chris Ingram and his dedicated team once again for researching and preparing this material for our presentation. See you next time on Let's Talk U.S. Immigration. Bye for now.